welcome back. Today's guest is Dave Seymour. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
I'm good, Jason. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. And we were just trading off our stories of New York City and the days of being young without kids, living in the city, and what a fun time. And now we're still living a life with kids, everything we want. So Dave is a retired 16-year veteran of the fire service, launched his real estate career over a decade ago, rapidly, as we could say, because if you are watching a video today, you're going to know Dave, right? Because Dave transacted tens of millions of dollars of real estate and has become one of the nation's leading expert in commercial multifamily transactions. And he also was put on the radar when he came onto AE television, right? As one of multiple news organizations like CBS, ABC, CNBC, and Fox, and Flipping Boston aired on A&E for multiple seasons, which is where I first discovered you. So now he's helping accredited investors on their very first deal, as well as guiding them through some of the largest investment firms in the nation through complex transactions. And his blue collar attitude, right?
Yes.
And white collar world is why investors seek his advice and want to invest alongside of him at Freedom Venture Investments. So you are now partnered with Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington. That's also part of it right there. Fantastic. So congrats on all your success. It's been fun because, I come from a family background of construction, right? So to see that mentality, the work mentality, I can see that on the show, and it's always fun, right?
Oh, yeah.
See that, and then you start just taking that to the next level, and that's where reality TV has its moments, right? They try to make the some of the bright things brighter, but some of these little things that aren't so bad, like the whole world's going to stop, right? And so it's fun to see the in between, but
it's nuts. There's a lot of buzz right now about some reality TV stuff that's out there, and I always sit back and I laugh a little bit, Jason. I always say to people, look, it's a reality TV show. Don't forget the word show on the back end. Yeah. My production company that did our show, the main lady there was with A&E Network, Arts and Entertainment, and she's such a cool lady. And something amazing? She just got picked up by Gary Vee and his media production stuff. And I was just texting with her this morning. I'm like, okay, it's time to do some real shit again. I'm done with this, this pretend stuff. Drop me in, Boise, Idaho, and 6 weeks later, I'll have 20,000 houses under agreement, and I'll, come on, stop it. So, if you want to know the reality behind reality TV, I'm your daddy. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's called bending reality is what it's called. So, but it was a lot of fun, brother. I mean, it was definitely a launch pad for a lot of other things that we did afterwards.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I would think you start doing so many things after. How did you fine tune after reality TV to take the next step? What was it? Because after the show, you move on. What was one of those moments that came up and said, this is just so monumental, and it comes from reality TV?
Yeah, it's such a good question, man. And there's so many different ways of answering it. I could mention 3 relationships that are not business oriented that came from the reality TV show that make my heart happy, right? So that can be an upside. I can talk about the business relationships that came off of it. If you want to look at it from a 30,000-foot viewpoint, it's crazy, man. Just because you're on TV, you're now an expert. Right? You're an expert because you write a book. It doesn't matter what you write. I got a book, I'm an expert. I got a coaching program, I'm an expert, right? I got a TV show, I'm an expert. Just ask me. So that magnifying glass was incredibly scary and at the same time attractive. So what I personally did was I'm the only guy who was in real estate education, like the seminar world. I was in that before I got a TV show. Everybody else gets a TV show and then they're in the education space. So I did it the other way around. So I looked at the opportunity in education and I said, this is my chance to be the guy, therefore influence the quality of fulfillment and content that a student would have access to. So I've been very blessed in that sense, Jason. And I mean that sincerely. Every time anybody invested in an education program that I was associated with on my own, I always gave them my cell phone number, my email address, because I took that personally, because I did the same thing. I invested $27,000 when I couldn't afford it, right, to get educated in real estate. But, from a business standpoint, it's funny. everybody thinks you're a millionaire, billionaire because you're on a TV show. So therefore, the perception is you can afford to pay too much. Like it's crazy, man. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like, you're from TV. Yeah, you're going to pay a 10% premium just because you're on a TV show. Oh, and I'm thinking to myself, no, I want a 20% discount because I'm on a TV show. You know
that's right. The stack should go in your favor, not against you.
Yeah, yeah. So you have to work your way through that minefield. And then on a personal level, again, it was very hard to leave my brotherhood. I was a firefighter, like you said, for 16 years, and it cost me too much money to go to the firehouse. So I had to make a decision, and the decision was for my family, just like the discussion we were having prior, right? You left New York and reposition yourself, for the little ones, and that was hard, man. There's a camaraderie in the firehouse, but it's interesting when somebody is perceived to be exceptionally successful and or wealthy or both. Some people can't take it. It's almost like you're doing them harm because you're no longer around, or and I learned quickly that my financial discussions needed to be with a new peer group. I learned that my storytelling and my passion and my joy isn't for everyone. It's for me and you, Jason, and Pilly, and the people that listen to the show. It's not for everybody out there. So that was a lesson to learn. And then again, on the business side, I was always from day one buying and holding assets. A 2-unit property, or flats, they call them in Chicago, a 3-flat, a 6-flat. So I always understood the value of buy and hold, and we just escalated that today to be able to be operating at the level that we are. So it's a journey. Real estate investing is not a sprint, and people think, oh, real estate investing. I watched that episode on HGTV, and the guy made $40,000 in 6 weeks, and nothing went wrong. I'm gonna do that. No, you donkey, you're not gonna do that. You're gonna run the race. You're gonna learn. You're gonna implement. It takes time. So. That's the biggest thing that a lot of people learn. It takes a process to put all this together. You know what I mean?
I like to even turn the narrative and say, okay, so let's just say that it did happen, right? Everything went perfect, and in 6 weeks you made $40,000. Well, right. What's next? Right? Because not everything's going to stop. Like you get to that $40,000. It's not like you're not going to have bills again, right? And so what do you do next? Like where do you go from here, and why do you want to do it? And I find that there's so many shiny objects these days between all the social media, everything. You can't stop. You're in drop shipping this week. Then it's crypto. Now we're back to holding gold, and now we're here. Now we want to do this. The thing about real estate is that it is that long road. And even on the part I was talking with an investor early, and she was asking about a couple of points. I was like, this is a long-term investment for the case. So you want to make sure that the operators you're working with, they're not jumping in and out of every different space, right? Because this is a relationship that you're cultivating for 3, 5, 7, 10 years, right? And so do you like this person? Like, do you like being around this person? Because if you don't, like, even if the deal is the greatest right now, it might not be right for you. And I say this for people that invest with us.
So good.
Yeah.
Look, man, I started working the financial advisor marketplace, just so I could get my lumps and bumps and bruises, right? So the certified financial planners, they've got a plan. Their plan is move money in and out, 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 in and out. But why? Because every time money moves in and out, the financial planner makes money. Let's just be honest, and that's okay. They're transparent, or they're not, whatever the case may be. But this as a syndicator yourself, and I syndicate as well as put the fund together. That capital is now committed. It stops the knee-jerk amateur reaction of 90% of the investors in that country, where they go, oh my God, the stock market's incredible, buy. Oh my God, somebody said it's not good, sell, buy, sell, move, back, right? When you look at I think it's a T12, you do a 12-year look back or a 10-year look back on the stock market. Most people believe that the stock market pays like 9% on average. Well, it doesn't. Only if you stay in, not if you go in and out, in and out, in and out. The average return for the average investor in the stock market is something like 2.5%, 3%. So I had a guy say to me, he was a financial planner. He said, I can't pitch your fund. I can't pitch your syndicated deals. I can't share a deck with my clients. I'm like, why? I pay better returns over a longer period of time. He goes, yeah, but it's illiquid, meaning the money's committed to the fund or the deal. And I said, look, man, I said, it all depends on how you look at it. Illiquidity is either a positive or a negative. It's a positive if you're an in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out kind of investor, which 90% are, or it's a negative if you're an in and out investor, right? We know with maturity, right? It's mature. We play a mature game as commercial real estate investors. We don't play, a roll the dice. I don't know if you're following it, but GameStop, the franchise GameStop.
I was laughing about it today.
Did you see what happened?
3,000%, right? And so, but it's that funny part right now. So if you think about it, and even getting back to real estate syndication, a lot of people who are in the stock market would almost wish that it was a liquid, right? Because their worst things that have happened was, 5 years ago they sold, or 2002 they sold this, or they sold that, and like they just held on, and didn't panic in that one moment, right? That would have been the narrative that would have set them up, and now they're trying to catch the ride in GameStop. So you have a ton of people that buy into this, and then everybody who's got the smart money is now shorting it on the back end, and when the bull runs out, right? So the next blockbuster turns into this, right? Where does it go from here?
Well, that's exactly it. I'm actually going to bring Blockbuster Video back, and if anybody wants to invest in that, they're more than welcome. I'm going to buy some GameStop, some Blockbuster Videos, and I might actually get a Radio Shack as well. So if anybody's interested in investing with Radio Shack,
that's right. Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? But some idiot will bring something like that to the market, and they'll go, "Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, it's vintage. Let's do that." So look, anyway, real estate is it's a grown-up game, right? It's to your point, you're investing with us as the general partners. You're investing with our business plan, with our track record. In our group, for example, I got over 25 years in the Gulf Coast region of Florida in commercial development down there. What does that mean? It means we get the very best deals first. We get the pocket listings. Yeah. The stuff that everybody else is buying is the stuff that we said we didn't want. That's history, right? That's history. And, investing with the right team is critical. And you're a testimony to that. It's the same thing, right? Whether you're doing a syndicated deal or fund or a combination, I invest with you guys when my money goes to work. And it takes time to build those relationships as well. Yeah. So it's definitely interesting watching what's going on, man. It really is. I don't know about you, maybe you are, but we're beginning to get the financial calls are coming in. So our banking relationships, our smaller financial institutions, they're actually calling us now saying, okay, this one's in default, this one's in pre-foreclosure. And we're getting the mom and pop organizations calling us, and they're saying, my realtor told me that you're the guy that closes. I need to get this thing done fast because I'm drowning. Can you help? So, you're not going to read, you're not seeing that on CNN. You're not seeing that on MSNBC. That's us. We're the ones on the front of these waves, if you will, because like you and Pilly, you're in the market, you're doing it as we are. So it's
I'm seeing
everything that we predicted, right?
Yeah, it's being pitched around a lot, and so we're seeing some of this stuff, the narrative here, and the part was that the business plan. Unfortunately, some of these are the narratives just work against them, right? You could be in the best position in some of these if you live next door, if you're next door to a hotel and all your residents worked at a hotel, you couldn't prepare.
Right.
But there are a few of these here that the plan, it was maybe razor thin, right? And now to the point that it's exposed, and
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. These were the operators, Jason, that had no reserves. They didn't understand what a reserve was, right? They didn't understand that. The amateur does not raise rents. The professional raises rents, right? The amateur don't raise the rent, they'll leave. No, silly. Give them quality housing so that they're happy when we raise the rents because the housing is so good. You know what I mean? So they don't have infrastructure. They give discounted rents to Charlie's cousin because he picks up the dog poop out front. It's amateur hour. This is a business. The way I always described it, and I'd love what you think of this, because I don't know if the analogy is accurate. I think it is. You take Warren Buffett, for example, right? Warren Buffett, although he did, stocks, bonds, all that stuff, he also buys businesses, and he identifies an underperforming business. He looks at their P&Ls and he says, okay, I think I can fix this. I can reposition it. I can get rid of the CEO, the CFO, the EIO, whatever he's got going on. Right? And he takes an underperforming business and he makes it more profitable based on its cash flow. Well, that's what you do, Jason. That's what I do. I look at a complex. You know, I'm dialed in on a very, very specific buy box for the fund. I dial in on that and I say, okay, you know, I've got management expenses of 58%, problem, right? I've got, you know, 10% vacancy, problem. I've got, you know, 5% yield, 5% minus, you know, the average rent for the marketplace, problem. And that's the same thing, man. I buy a business, and an apartment complex is a business. Bring in our team, reposition it, make it more valuable because it brings in more cash flow. It's not complicated, but if you don't have the skills and the history to implement it, then you can fall flat on your ass. You know,
you're exactly right. And we say that same thing all the time, that we're buying businesses, and that's why going larger makes sense, because it gives you more flow. So we used to, you know, we opened some restaurants in New York City, opened a brewery at other points, and it goes, if you have a 12-seat restaurant or a 100-seat restaurant, it's the same operation, but you're limited on your cap right here. So how many times you have to turn your rotation of people coming in to be able to cover you on the 12, right? Because the real estate's still the real estate, lights are still the lights, everything else. And so you have a cable bill, you have an internet bill. So you do this, and people usually say, you know, I've been doing single family, I'm going to start with an 8-unit. And I'm saying, okay, why? Because it sounds safe. Well, why does it sound safe? Okay, because, you know, it doesn't seem too big. Okay, so what does that do for you, right? Because if you're, say you have a 10-unit and you have 3 vacants, you're 70% occupied. So that's going to limit your debt, right? So now you get 100 units, right? Okay, 3 units vacant. Now you're 97%, right? And the lever moves a lot more. If I go into that 4-unit and change out the toilets, it's not going to move the needle that much. But I do that on 100 units, right? And cut them all to low flush toilets. You know, maybe you cut down your water bill by 20, 25%. Where does that happen in the narrative? And then getting familiar, like you said on the sheet right there, identify, okay, expense you're at 56%, knowing your market. Most people are just looking at that rent, and you get back to that part is that if you do make this a better community to live, right? People aren't saying, you know, they're living there because that's what's in front of them. But if you give them a better place to live, it's not like they're going to say, well, I'd rather move out of the, you know, the sub-market where I got to change my kids. Now I got to take them to a new school and a point. They'll be happy, right? And so if you can keep that model, instead of just jumping in there and jacking up rents and say, well, how do we make this a better community to live? It's you'll see the residents start stepping up, right? They're not like, oh, I wish I really want to live in a bad place. You know, it's like, well, no, you know, this is what they had. What can you do to improve that? And then they follow it because they love it.
Yeah. You know what I see is a lot of bigger operations. So these guys and girls who chase the 250 doors and above. I won't look at anything unless it's 250 doors. I love to hear that. You know why? Because I'm picking up everything else that they don't want, right?
Yeah.
And I can make more money. I can pay better returns consistently, in my opinion, with a 50 to 150 unit complex, which is what we buy. And here's the truth of the matter: when you're doing 250 doors and above, guess what? You're not in the people business anymore, right? You're in the number crunching business. You just have a different mindset altogether. And I learned from my mentor many years ago that we are in the people business first. It just so happens that the product we give them is real estate, right?
I love that.
And here's the truth of it, Jen. I know you agree with this. We have to, as GPs, we have to be in a position where they are happy and grateful for the fantastic, clean, safe, affordable housing we give them, right? Because then they've got a tenant buyer type mentality rather than just a tenant mentality. And, you know, it's not perfect. It's not all, you know, unicorns and rainbows and all of that BS. But, you know, you set a mindset, a precedent, and people are watching all the time. You know, oh my God, did you see what they did? They just took care of that carpet in the hallway. That thing's been stinky for years. And just a coat of paint, mate. Maybe these are going to be some good. They even put a little A-frame over the mailboxes outside, so I'm not all wet and soggy anymore when I'm picking up. You know what I'm saying? Like, these little nuances, these make a difference. They make a big ROI difference. And they generally only come through our expertise as GPs, yours and mine, right? Being able to say,
you're just showing tenants the narrative. And what happens in result there is, because generally they're probably living in the complex where, you know, the water's been leaking in their shower for 3 months. They call, nobody comes. They call, nobody comes. So the new ownership takes over and they just assume you're not going to come, right? So setting a narrative that, listen, we want to fix things, right? And you go in there, they know, then they start calling you, letting you know about these little, oh, the toilet's running. You get in there and something where your money's running down the toilet. You start seeing everything come into perspective, because you're just helping the front end, which ultimately takes the investment all the way through. And I love the approach.
Every piece needs an SOP. It needs a procedure.
Yeah.
Onboarding, exit interview, maintenance, collecting rents, depositing, security checks, insurance. I mean, everything has to be a systematized approach, because otherwise you're going to lose. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say you might get lucky. You won't. You'll get screwed, blued, and tattooed, because you won't have an answer when you need one, right? You've got to be able to be prepared. And even down to, how are you taking title? Are your assets protected? Are your investors protected? What's your umbrella policy look like? And this in real estate, it's not if, it's when we get sued. And when we get sued, are we in a good position? So, a lot of these smaller organizations, again, to go full circle with it, Jason, they're hurting, brother. They're hurting. They're getting beaten up. They're getting tuned up. And what's the saying there? Everybody, I think it was Mike Tyson, right? Everybody's got a plan until you get smacked in the mouth.
That's right. It is. Yeah.
Look, everybody, watch this. You're gonna love this. Everybody can make money when real estate is doing this. Everyone's a genius real estate investor when it's going like that. It's guys like me and like you who went through 2008, who went through the correction prior to that, who went through 2011, right? We're the guys who came out the other side with the lumps, the bumps, the scars, and the bruises to say, okay, I'm ready for the next correction. And our investors love that, man, because we're carrying confidence, So.
What was interesting too is I've been watching your social platform, and just like you said there, you're buying assets, because typically you see fund assuming the word, just as the narrative that we're going after 200, 300 unit properties and that's it, right? But there's so much you can do with these properties that have that missing point right there, because you have that gap right there where people are like, oh, I don't know, it's too big for me, and then the other investors saying it's too small, right? But there's a ton of gap there for you, right? And that's where you're finding these deals. So talk to us about your fund, why this was the transition that you went into, and going forward, how you're adjusting right now during the landscape.
Yeah, no, great questions, man. At the beginning of this year, I was 3 months into the launch of a hard money lending business. I always had my own portfolio, 150 doors, 110 doors, buy them, sell them, buy them, sell them. I had a partner in Sanford, Maine, which is like a B- C+ neighborhood. I never had to deal with it. I just made money on it. So the hard money lending business was killing it. January, February, we opened the doors, 7 loan originators, 15 million in loans coming through the pipe. Wow. And I was ripping all of these loans off a $50 million line of credit. Only had a 3-day turnover because Wall Street had to buy my notes. Well, you know what happened in March?
Yep.
Wall Street goes, no more QM, no QMs. We're all done. We're not buying unless somebody lives in the house. They want all the gravy A paper. They don't want any of this challenge stuff, which gives them a better yield. And I'm like, holy crap, brother! I'm out of business in 3 days. And I'm like, what? So that was the formation of what I'm doing today. God is good. You either lay down and cry or you step up and go. And I just looked at it from a very big picture standpoint. And I said, he or she who controls the capital wins the race. And I connected with my partner, Walter, down in Fort Myers. I'm up here in Boston. Our other partners in New Hampshire, doing all the systems and the online magic. And I said to Walter, what are you doing, brother? He goes, look, man, he goes, we're going to see a tsunami of opportunity just in Florida alone. We won't need to go anywhere else. And he started to describe what he'd done, raised 125 million in his career. Now it's interesting, raised it, but spent it. Not just raised it and kept it, like raised it, spent it, deployed it, paid back targeted returns. And he said, I can do onesies, twosies. We can do syndicated together. He said, oh, we can go big or go home. He said, because the opportunity is there for a fund. And that's how and why we created the fund. So it's $100 million private equity raise. We're about 75% of where we want to be right now. So we extended 1 more year to continue to raise capital in. We're buying 100, 40 to 140 B plus assets. Core plus is our strategy for the fund. So core for your listeners, I'm sure they know, is cash flow. So my marketing is buy cash flow. Yeah. Don't tell me you're going to develop something and get paid in 18, 24 months. Because I promise you 18 to 24 months from now, it's going to be a shit show, brother. I promise you. Mark it on your calendar. So cash flow is going to be king. So, we buy the core plus assets, and then I've got one right now, which we're doing some sidecar deals as well. So sidecar meaning one-offs, some syndicated assets. Got a nice little 81 unit that we're doing right now. So a 55 and a 26, all on one ticket. It's
that's because they don't meet the specifications of what you designated.
Right. And but here's a little trick. Watch this. You're gonna love this. Our PPM allows us for our fund to co-sponsor or partner with our one-off deals. Now watch. A fund is hard because they say, well, what am I investing in? Well, you're investing in the company. You're buying shares. You own a piece of whatever the fund owns. Well, what is it? Because they can't wrap their head around it, the retail investor. So we're okay. We're getting there. But the one-off deals that don't meet the fund requirement, I call them core plus because they're not really value add because they still cash flow. So we got 81 units. We'll close that towards the end of February. About a $7.2 million acquisition for both units, $3 million raise from our investor pool. Haven't even put it out there yet. I got 33% committed already. And that one's, core plus, meaning it's got a little more work. The line item for construction on 81 doors is about $450,000.
Gotcha.
Repositioning, shitty this one's a gold mine, Jason, because it's got 60% expense ratio.
Oh, there you go.
I'm like, Walter, 60%. He goes, oh, you should see the salaries of these guys. It's beautiful. I'm like, okay, so we're in. But that one there, nice little sidecar deal, the fund or JV with it. So it shows on the fund's balance sheet as well.
See, that's fantastic.
That one there.
Fund is almost a fund of funds, right? So it's almost. I love it.
Yeah, dude, it's so good, man. It's so good. And it's good for everybody. It's good for the fund investors. So now a lot of my investors are going in the sidecar deals and the fund. They go, okay, I want in both, because one's a longer strategy, 5 to 7 years, and the sidecar deals are 2 to 3 years. So that knee-jerk guy who wants in and out.
Yeah, now it meets both levels, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And they're still, the targeted returns are still sweet. They're 10 to 14% quarterlies. The IRR on this one's coming in around 31 because it's a shorter run, and the multiple's like a 1.8 on this thing.
That's great.
So
it's a solid deal level or investor level.
That's the investor level. That's the investor. So that's targeted for the investors.
Yeah.
Here's a tip for you. If you go down this road, we up the minimum investment for the investors on the sidecar deals. And the reason we do that is I want a smaller investor pool there because of, accounting, communication, et cetera. Keep it with a nice tight group that knows you. And then they become the preferred, groups for all the sidecar deals. And what happens is this, everybody talks, man. And then they say, "What you're doing? What? How do I get a piece of that?" Well, I don't know. You make sure that you get in there quicker on the next one. It's that kind of concept, it's FOMO. So it's all good. You got to learn the game a little better. You know what I mean? But this is I'm learning. I'm not. Look, dude, we ain't in real estate anymore, Jason. We're in finance. Let's just be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finding out what their investing goals are first. I've turned away capital because, I'll give you $1 million, but, I want to be on your advisory board. No, I don't need anybody else. I need passive investors. You know what I mean? So aligning yourself with the right people.
The best things we did early on is said no to money, right? Because our deal could be the best thing in the world to us, but it's not right for some people, right? And so for that point, you have to understand where's that level, right? Because at that point, you want to have a good relationship going forward, right? And that's the same thing with partnerships. I've learned early on, partnerships are everything, right? So just because they're your friend does not mean that's your partner, right? Identifying that we're both into this for a long run. So, Dave, I got to say, man, we could talk for hours. So for that point, I enjoy this conversation. Everybody go back and just dial in because we've talked about so many different points. Because
we hit some stuff, didn't we?
This is the time, right, to look at where you are. And the whole world's changing around us. So if you're going to sit there and just stay dormant, well, the world's going to continue to change, right? So change happens. And if you look at the change in the narrative, continue to update your approach, that's how people win in real estate. It's not just saying, well, okay, I've done this forever, so I'll just keep doing this. Well, no, everything's changing, right? So everything's changing. And so, you go from working in the firehouse to flipping to buy and hold on a small level to funds to sidecar syndications. using the fund with the syndications, you continue to learn the narrative and ask questions, you get to do what Dave does, right? And it's an exciting approach, and you can do that. So Dave, thank you for being on the show. This has been phenomenal.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm gonna give you one little thing because I think it's critical. You know, you talk about change happening around us. There's a couple of, and they're kind of cheesy, but they're good. You know, opportunity only ever goes in one of two directions, Jason. It either comes towards us or away from us. And that's always dependent, right? Dependent upon the decision we make. Yep. And don't ever say I'm lucky, because the definition of luck is where opportunity meets preparedness. Yep. I've got 8 months behind me already in preparing for what is still yet to come. And we're only beginning to see the early manifestations of it now. So, you know, and last of all, right, remember Hillary Clinton?
Yeah.
Right. With Hillary Clinton, you know, she's like, she kind of like turned around. She's like, you know, what happened? Like, what happened? The narrative was changing, lady, and you didn't know what to do. And, you know, I didn't mean to take it to a political level, but, you know, she's the epitome of not understanding what's going on around her. Right. And the game that's being played. So
you have to continue to show up, and you're so right. And so you do hear that narrative like, oh, well, they got lucky. No, they put themselves into place to have luck happen right for them, right? And that's like everything, right? Like very rarely does someone just walk in and all of a sudden it's $1 million in the pot, right? It's that point.
It doesn't work. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen.
They
appreciate you, brother.
Fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Quickly, freedomventure.com, best way for people to learn more, see more about it.
Yeah, freedomventure.com. I'm also old school. You can actually call me 781-922-4418. How do you like them apples? I told you, man. I'm the CEO that's approachable. I took a commitment to that. My phone rings, I answer it. So yeah, Freedom Venture. Google my name, you'll find me. All right.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, brother. God bless.
Well, you heard it today. There was so much gold in there. You have to go back and just continue to push forward. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you shortly.